Thanks, Dave. You want to do?
This will be its favourite topic.
You're just getting coffee. You'll be coming. We'll smoothly on them. No, thank you and welcome, Miles, and it's disappeared. Staff and everybody that's here for another exciting instalment of the Finance Committee First Legal Workshop. So we're going to talk about the Treasury Management Policy.
So maybe to just introduce it. So this is one of the policies that's in the LTP. Interestingly, we don't actually have to consult on this policy. So we could make changes to this policy right now if we wanted to, with council approval. But yeah, it's a foundational document in the LTP, and Miles has reviewed it, and he does a lot of reviewing of lots of other council treasury policies, and so that's where the changes kind of come through. Okay, in this policy.
Do you guys want to give us the headlines for a few minutes? Just what's good about it? What's so good about it?
I've got a track change version, so yeah. I'm not sure which pages you'll be on, but okay. I can sort of summarise what we have done. Under the section called liquidity and funding, the two used to be combined, and it's a wee bit of a misnomer, or maybe a wee bit misunderstood, that liquidity and funding are two different concepts. A lot of people who construct policy see them as the same, but they're not. So what liquidity is making sure that you've got enough funds to fund the council operation and the normal course of its activities. So it's liquidity is sort of looking after your working capital management. And what we have done here is we've used the LGFA's liquidity facility which states that liquidity facilities should be maintained at a minimum of 110% above projected peak borrowing requirements over the next 12 months. Now, why they say 110%, I don't know. It should be 10%. It's just easier to understand. So you've got 700 million of debt, so you have to have 70 million of liquidity. Now, those liquidity facilities are made up of the LGFA's facility that you've got, which we're in the process of amending.
Not getting signed.
Yeah.
It's quite tough to sign that thing.
It's very, very cost effective. The bank facility, which it's replacing, but also any cash that you've got in the bank in term deposits. So we're just using the LGFA's version of that because that's the one that you have to comply with. I think having 70 million of liquidity is sufficient if you've got 70 million of debt. So I think 10% is an appropriate number. If I thought it wasn't, we could have a different number here. The other one is funding. Now, funding is different, and that is your longer term, how you actually fund yourself as an organisation. And what we aim to do there is to make sure that you don't have an excessive amount of debt subject to maturities in any 12-month period. Now, it's a rolling 12-month period. It's not a 12-month period. So it's not the financial year. So what we just changed it to here is just saying you should have no more than 35% of your debt that have a higher number. But we just think now that your headline number is higher, we actually have to reduce the percentage because it's that dollar amount that we have to fund. So 35% of your debt shall mature in any rolling 12-month period. So if it was a financial year, you could have 35% mature on 30th of June and 35% on 1 July. So you'd have 70% in 2 days and you'd be complying. So that's why we have the rolling 12-month period. Any questions on that?
I think that's all reasonable. Nice. Can I ask a question? I'm not on your committee. If you say that, the 110% ratio of debt plus available liquid investments is to be more than projected debt in 12 months. If you say it would be better just to say 10%, why isn't it worded on that?
That was the LGFA's wording, and I've actually hit them on about this. Why do you make it 110%? Shouldn't it just be 10%? It means the same thing, but I'm just using the standard LGFA wording. I mean, we could make it 10%. Because it is confusing. I mean, you'd think that would actually mean that you have to have, what about 700 million? Yes. So
That's why it's
that
worded as
itself doesn't make any sense if you were to read it that way. Yeah, like that's not sensible.
No.
That sort of liquidity.
No, 707 million. If you want to make, I'm quite happy for that to be 10%. 10%, yes. Would you be happy with that?
What page was
We just
that?
need rewording that whole paragraph to make it make sense. What it is.
Page 5 of the agenda.
on?
Page 4, so it'd be page 4 for the.
So unless you had, if I might, so 110%, which includes the debt that's held.
Yeah.
Just clarify. So either way, it doesn't, it'll be better than what's there now.
So it's normally 110%, or 10% of the LGFA's requirement is of projected peak debt over the next 12 months.
Yeah. So it's saying it'll ensure the external debt plus committed loan facility. So you're actually counting that 700 million as well. So at 110% with the $70 million rolling facility, you've actually got covered. So yes.
You wouldn't have to redo the whole paragraph though, because it does make sense the way it's written.
It does make sense.
It's convoluted.
So you would have to read
But it does make
That's
sense.
the standard word.
Yeah. So that, yeah.
Yep.
You can put a little footnote and go, if you wanted to clarify it for somebody else and just go, meaning 10%. Yeah.
Or give an example.
Yeah, or give an example and then cover it in a cover sheet. Yep, or something.
Yeah, for example, 700 million debt,
Yeah.
70%, sorry,
Yeah.
70
Would
million
require have something like that. Yeah.
I think realistically, the readership group of this clause outside of this room is
They'll all
reasonably low.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
The ones that read it will get it.
Do you have a question just around the rolling 12? I'm trying to understand whether rolling 12, rolling 24, what would be the tangible difference in that?
You have to have more facility,
Yeah, I mean,
paying for that.
Yeah.
Pay for the
yes,
Yes.
it would actually mean an increase in the costs, but also, I mean, how reliable is the 24-year forecast compared to the 24-month forecast compared to the 12-month forecast?
So the advantage wouldn't really exist.
No. I mean, look, it would future-proof you even more, but I have to come at a cost.
Yeah.
I mean, just given your debt size at the moment, I mean, if your debt is going to go up by, say, 50 million or whatever, you're going to have hold another 50 million of facilities. You're going to have to hold another 5 million. Is that right? Yeah. And then that's going to cost you 0.2. So it's at 100,000. Am I right? So that, I think yeah.
I don't know.
I think
We've got a few
100,000.
geniuses for maths and stuff, so, yeah.
Just wondering if there's anything in here that's impacted by the debt cap, which is something that isn't for sure yet, I guess. Rates cap. Sorry, not debt cap, rates cap. It's the end of the day. But just talking about some of the LGNZ stuff, I'm being a bit obtuse because I can't remember where I read it. Thought about it last night and then I failed to note it. But just, obviously we can't we potentially, if the bill goes through, all depending, we may not be able to, increase rates more than 4%. So we just don't have the ability to, secure, these contingent liabilities, what we are willing to guarantee. We need to be a bit more careful about that. When you went through it, did you go through it thinking about the fact that we may have a cap? And look, we can change this, as you say, at any time. So if that bill goes through, but in the interim period, we might commit to something that we won't be able to deliver on. And what comes into the financial strategy rather than
there was something in here around LGFA that I read that just made me think should we really be
We're not
able to commit to that? But yeah, I really appreciate if you just have us go through and just have a think about whether.
Yeah, I mean, that question has come up at other councils, and until we know exactly the details of it, we probably can't.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying no more than 4%. I mean, it might be 5%, but the point is that we don't have unlimited capacity to raise. We all raise, we can't just, commit to what we used to commit to. We can't.
So there are the LGFA covenants, which is debt shall not exceed 110%. Debt shall not exceed 175% of revenue. Sorry, you're 280, you're going to that.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Except for high growth.
Yeah, so if you get 280 is the normal one, and if you get into the high growth group, then that could go to 350.
And
Yeah.
we are in high growth.
And I guess I was starting to wonder too, whether, because we've talked about debt getting, using our GFA. I mean, does using our GFA start to become a lot more risky with debt caps in place, just as a principle, given that we're responsible for other councils and their debt? But just looking at, where we borrow and our principles around that stuff. Sorry, I'm just.
I think if LGFA fell over, there'd be a lot of councils falling over.
Well, yeah, no, but we can say that, but we're entering a whole new period. I mean, LGFA has operated under councils
What are you
being able to.
suggesting?
Well, I don't know. This isn't my area of expertise, but what I want is for us to have a really good think about everything in here and what we're allowing the organisation to do, given that we and all the other councils in the near future may not be able to just increase rates to cover issues.
I'd have to look through the
I
policy.
mean, if we haven't looked at
So
it through that.
those ratios in place.
Well, there's
So
other.
we can't exceed the rates review to a certain.
No,
That's 20.
But then that rates review is going to go down. I'm saying it can only go up by a certain amount. So
Yeah,
it's
so
always
it's
gonna
happening,
be
they're saying to us.
and we're always going to comply with that ratio.
Yeah, no, but the point is that we are guaranteeing things where we may need to increase rates significantly in order to raise revenue and
So-
potentially raise capital to cover shortfalls where a council may fall over.
Well,
Or
council
they
don't, yeah, the council don't.
no, but we haven't in the past because we've been able to increase rates. If we had been able to increase rates the way we have
But
over the last 6
Right, the policy, the rate cap policy is very clear that any unforeseen issues, you can increase rates.
Yeah.
You can go regulated.
They've been very careful around that,
Mhm.
but because they
Yeah.
want to avoid that
Who
happening.
would sign off on that? Do you remember?
No, it's about a regulator being
Yeah.
appointed,
But we-
which would potentially be compliant.
Yeah.
I take the point.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just being wary, like it's new territory, we haven't, so all of our policies should be viewed, just keeping an eye on the legislative changes because I'm not an expert, so I'm just.
So there is that debt revenue covenant, which is the one that most local authorities get tripped up, or if any do get tripped up.
Not really worried about
But there's
that.
also the interest coverage ratio.
Yeah.
Which is for a rated council, interest shall not exceed 30% of rates revenue, and I think
I
20
understand with both of
25%.
those, but
Yeah.
they all exist and, they've always existed. The thing that's changing is that, rates cap. So I just, given that we're looking at money.
It's the rates cap, but our income's not going to go down. Our existing.
No, I'm not suggesting that it is. All I'm suggesting as principle is that we can no longer just increase to cover whatever. That's the broad principle is that if something goes wrong, we've always, our contingent liabilities have always been noted, but it's always been set on the table. But, we can always increase rates to cover it and everyone knows that.
What's it got to do with treasury management?
Because I read in there somewhere around the LGNZ debt and what we could do and what we could invest in and what we could guarantee, and that was what concerned me.
LGNZ debt, LGFA.
LGFA debt. Yeah, sorry, I said LGNZ. I'm just having a hard time finding the bit that.
Just a simple,
Yeah.
somewhat stupid question as well. So we have 700 million of debt. The little bird told me that 480 million of that is going to go over to the CCO, which is going to leave us 220 million in debt. And we have our revenues of 60.
Yeah, it'd be about 30 rates revenue.
oh, rates revenue, once it goes over there.
Yeah.
And so if we go 130, I'm just trying to find the upper bound, times 3.5, we could raise up to 450. We could have a total debt of around 450 million.
Yeah, well, we definitely have larger headroom than we've currently got, yeah.
Okay, thanks. And per Nikki's question, we are bound to the LGFA, right? Handcuffed to them as well.
Well, it was set up for local government,
Yeah, I know, but.
yeah.
But
And
first
it's
of
been
all, sign
successful.
is jumping through a lot of hoops.
So a weird benefit would be to be great rates from LGFA. There's unlimited borrowing here up to our ratios, right? So like we can borrow as much as we want from the LGFA, but it's no real constraint on that other than these ratios. So yeah, having to go and raise money from other things, I'm not sure how that would be.
Right. Unless,
They're gonna want-
unless it was excessively cheaper.
But they want security as well, which we don't have to provide to LGFA.
Well, security is the rate through
Yeah, yeah.
the dimension, which gives you the statutory ability to charge rates. Well, sorry, which has embedded as a central philosophy your statutory ability to charge general and special rates. So that's what's used as security, and that's embedded in the debenture trustee.
The other table.
Yeah, that's. So I added a bit on what instruments you can use to manage interest rate risk and interest rate swaps. I just interest rate options. I mean, we'll hardly ever use them. I mean, I've never used one with you before, but I just made a bit of a. I just put a bit of a safeguard in there that you can't go and do something with options. You can actually leverage yourself, and then you do it, open up yourself to a bit of risk. So I'm just putting there what's called a 1-for-1 ratio. You know about a 1-for-1 collar, where you can't do a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1. You're familiar with those?
You lost me. Sorry, I was paying attention. Not your fault.
I'm just limiting your ability to use options to 1-to-1 ratios.
Okay.
So a zero collar, you can only do 1-for-1. You can do 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s, but it increases your exposure. So I'm just limiting it that way.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Fixed rate bonds, so there's nothing really there. Now the fixed to floating ratio is at the moment it's 0-2, 2-4, and then 4-8. So we propose 2-5, 0-2, 2-5, 5-8. So we're just proposing to change it to 0-2 stays the same, the percentages stay the same, 40% minimum, 100% maximum, and then the 2-5 becomes 2-4. A minimum of 20% of debt must be fixed and a maximum of 80. And we did have it 5, it was stated in the policy 5-8, we're making it 5-10, so you can just go out longer without having to revert to council or get special authority, and you can go up to 60% in that 5 to 10 year period.
And obviously Miles reports each meeting for our compliance with those percentages.
That 60% will decline.
What's that?
If in a perfect state, that 60% will decline with our growth rate and with the growth in our revenues. Yeah.
60% will increase. So 60, you can have a maximum of 60% of your debt.
Yeah.
Fixed.
Yeah.
So how did you say it would decline?
As our revenues increase, as our population increases, that 60% will decline. That if we add nothing to it. You follow what I mean? We double our population every 16 years.
Would increase.
Right? We currently are running at 130 million in revenues.
But non-water.
But
Non-water.
No, this has nothing to do with revenue. This is just how much of your debt can be fixed and how much can be floating. Yeah. So no, it doesn't have a revenue component to it.
Out to how long? So we were fixed up out to 10 years. That's the key.
Yeah.
And that sets off a BKBM. But
No, so
the floating side.
oh yes.
Okay.
So at the moment with the LGFA, it's either a commercial paper, which is short term out to, normally you just do it for 3 months, or floating rate notes, which you go out to 2031, I think, 2032. And then you have your fixed rate bonds, and you have your swaps as well. So you can achieve your fixed rate either by interest rate swaps or fixed rate bonds, and that gives you the ability to have that percentage. Well, that's how you can arrive at that percentage. We are including in there, this gets a wee bit complicated for the maths, but it's not too hard really. It's what we call counterparty exposure limits. So for interest rate swaps, because if you have a large number of interest rate swaps, if those interest rate swaps are in the money, in other words, interest rates have gone up since you took them out, you actually have an exposure to the bank, because the bank has to be good for that. They have to be there, and they have to be in existence for them, for you to be able to take advantage of those swaps that you took out. So we actually put a limit on how much you can have with any one bank, and there's a mathematical calculation here. It's
LGFA.
what's that?
Same doesn't apply to LGFA.
No, because they're not doing swaps with the LGFA.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Just thinking about the debt though, but I suppose it doesn't.
That's coming up in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Found the bits that I was a bit concerned about.
It's that calculation is standard, and I think the maximum we're going to is 25 million with banks. Now, this is the one. It's funny you should bring that up, because it's the table which says, your counterparty limits for borrowings. So it's who you can. This is not interest rate swaps. It's who you can borrow from. And I don't know what page it is on your slide.
8.
9.
8, 9. Yeah.
So it states that you can borrow as much as you like from the government or the LGFA, but New Zealand registered banks is limited to 50 million. And it was I'll admit it was an oversight on my part. It shouldn't be 50 million. It probably should be 250 million. But you don't borrow anything from the bank at the moment, but you do have, you have a facility with BNZ, which is 20 million. And suddenly, this is a very simplistic view of it. I don't really mind where you get the money from, as long as you get it. You don't have an exposure to them, they have the exposure to you, but you do want to have some sort of counterparty. But whether or not you need counterparty limits for a bank, I don't want to put them around the LGFA, because the LGFA is by far, it's the cheapest, but it's also the soundest.
It is.
So it has the same rating as the New Zealand government. I'm sure I've said it before in these meetings, but the LGFA is recognised as being one of the most successful special purpose vehicles set up to fund local governments in the world. It was the Nordic model that they used at the beginning, and then they improved on it, and that was the Nordic model was recognised as one of the best ones. Other governments around the world looking at setting it up. Now, they have so many safeguards built in. They have, last time I heard, they had about 32 billion and lent 28 billion to the local government sector. So that means they've got 4 billion of liquidity. They have a facility with the Debt Management Office of 600 million, which is going to be increased, which can be increased to 1.6 billion, and that's probably going to go higher to over 2 billion.
It's government guarantee as well.
Is it?
No.
I bet you. 20%.
Oh, well, no, 20%. Yeah. Well, they have the facility with the Debt Management Office, which is the government, so they can take it's an emergency. They have never had to use the liquidity facility or the debt, the Debt Management Office facility. It's incredibly well run. Now, I just want to do what's best for the council, and I don't have a problem with you getting all of your funding from the LGFA, because if we went somewhere else and substitute it, in all likelihood, they're the ones that have the problems, not the LGFA.
So the other thing with LGFA, didn't they have sort of, and these might be the safeguards, but they require certain things of us. I'm thinking back to page 2. This was what I read. And I could be completely wrong because this is not my area, but we can do a number of things, contribute a portion of our borrowing back to the LGFA. We can provide guarantees of the indebtedness of other local authorities to the LGFA, the indebtedness of the LGFA itself. Now, these were the things that I'm starting to just go, okay, once upon a time I understood that, could see that was fine, but now I just worry that, the lenders might view LGFA slightly differently if there were debt caps in place. They might not. With the Three Waters gone and slightly different, but also borrowing for the LGFA, with the RAS coming on board, so lots of changes happening. And how are we keeping up and not just going, the LGFA has always been good and therefore it will always be good, but just keeping an eye on it, given all the combined settings and who's borrowing. And so that's all. I'm not saying it's wrong. And I think if you step back from it, you start to undermine it. If everybody did that, it would be a problem. But I'm just being careful.
So we are including LGFA reports, statement of intent, annual reports, quarterly reports in your papers, so that you can keep an eye on as well. But as long as other councils do as well. So it's
it would just be good to have some analysis from people who are in the know, who are working in the sector, and just making sure that, because we're not experts, just to have some advice from people. I mean, good to hear what rating agencies.
Miles as an expert, and he's in the engineering, and then based on the comments that he just made about the LGFA, does that give you some comfort?
And they get credit rating.
Yeah, if Miles is thinking about it from that perspective, it's all new though, right? And I'm not talking about right now, I'm just thinking into the future. Let's just...
I mean, this is an evolving document, so if we thought that it needed to be changed because there was some, there was an element that had arisen that we hadn't foreseen before, then we could change it. Then what was the point you were just going to
LGFA, it's a credit rating as well.
So they have the same rating as the New Zealand government, and they're rated by both Standard or S&P Global, the old Standard & Poor's, and Fitch ratings.
Totally get it. There's just a whole bunch of changes to come. They're not actually in effect yet. And all I'm saying is,
Now, that, as I say, the oversight from me, that the old policy stated 50 million from the bank. I think that should be quite a bit higher. I mean, you don't borrow anything from the bank.
This is just the 4 Aussie banks, does it include Kiwi Bank?
No, it's rated A, so New Zealand registered banks.
Okay.
So that can include, Citibank and HSBC. So New Zealand registered.
We got there are much bigger things to worry about than those banks falling over. I think just their real risk is to us, not to them.
Yes, it is. It's the other way around.
But I think we leave it as it is in the policy because we don't use it anyway.
No.
And like I said, we needed to change it because we wanted to keep the
And we could actually trim that one down too if you wanted. We could rate. We could make an A. Well, it's A. We could put it up to A plus, but do we leave it at 50? Put it up to us.
Whatever you want to slice and dice. 250 the big Aussie banks, and 100 to one of the other smaller ones. And I would include Citibank in that. But this is like how many angels can we fit on the head of a pin? These banks have bigger exposure to us, riskier exposure to us than we have to them.
Well, we could make it 50 million if a bank is rated A, and 150 million if it's rated A plus or better.
Yeah.
Keep looking for a solution for a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
but it might. So is it?
I think we don't know what's coming. Been living through
20 million that would be is that an emergency?
It's a cash facility.
So
we're getting rid of it, we're replacing it with an LGFA.
Because we do statutorily, we have to make provision for that, don't we? So one way or another, in the event of an emergency, when we would need to fund, as I was talking about earlier, a whole lot of stuff that we will need to. So we have to have some arrangement in place to be able to finance that. And so we need something there. I would be inclined to go with those much bigger figures. Costs us nothing, but it means that we've got some parameters around what we expect we'll be able to go to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 50 and 150.
Having been there.
Now, hey, just one thing I've thought of, my other thought was, I don't think we get in the policy, I'm just trying to think, the LDFA ratios as far, we've got 110% liquidity, but the debt to revenue, we should just include that.
No, they're all linked. So there's a table on there.
Oh, there is one, I'm reading it.
Which is covered in the
Yeah.
ratio. Page one.
Appendix one, is it?
Page one.
Oh, fine.
The other one. You've got QAC that's not in this.
Oh, sorry. That table is your authorised financial market investment parameters. It's in the rather unusual, unlikely event that you'll have a lot of funds to invest.
Oh, some ministers would like us to.
The main one actually is that you can have 60 million with the bank short term. I now have the short term with a rating, a short term rating of A1, a minimum short term rating of A1. So if you have surplus cash, just on a short term basis, is 60 million enough? Would you? Or
At the moment, yeah, we'd probably have 30 maybe at the moment.
Probably, yeah.
Are you happy with that number?
Put it up to 100.
So that is what is basically with your transactional bank, which you would have either in a check, on an overnight account.
It's not a little bit wrong for us again, I think.
Well, we have a period of time when the rates income comes in and then the 20th of the month payments go out. So we do sometimes have kind of like a day.
In breach of that.
And no, we're saying probably would only be about 30 million at the max.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we put that onto deposit and then release it by the 20th. Yeah.
So we're at 60, what would 80, 100?
Put 100. That's a nice.
Yeah. Round up.
Be positive.
Yeah.
Now the delegations policy.
Oh, yes. So to enable some of this, I need some more delegation. So we might have to look at the delegation
Which is
policy.
a full council thing.
It will be, yeah. I mean, this whole thing has to
Yeah,
go through full
Yeah, it
council.
does mention.
Yeah, yeah. It was just that we were going through it. We're going, oh, actually, I need some more delegation
I actually do that stuff.
to do that stuff. Yeah.
We ran into a problem last year, I think, when we had 105 million maturing. It was mainly commercial paper and an FRN, and we had to split it into 2 days because he went over the delegation on a daily limit. Now, one thing.
Swaps, this is swaps about.
No, this was just funding from the LGFA, the commercial paper. These delegation policies actually they're what I'd call very flexible.
Yeah.
It says the limit, and the limit we're proposing the limit of being able to fund from the local government funding agency is 100 million, or the New Zealand Registered Bank. Now, what does that 100 million apply to? Is it a day? Is it a week?
Right.
And most policies don't actually envisage that. They just say that the limit is 100 million or whatever it is. So I think it has to state the daily limit.
Is it a daily limit?
Yeah, well,
Is it a drink of wine?
yes, it's transaction. Yeah.
But do you have some limits? I mean, what other limits might you put around? We often with delegations, we are quite flexible. There can be conditions on delegations where, even reporting conditions or, how many, you have a daily limit, but only how many daily within a certain period. I don't know. I don't know what is appropriate, but we are quite.
I mean, it comes through in your report ultimately, the results of the swaps and the exchange, and they're all kind of reported back. through
Yeah.
independent.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't know what is appropriate, but I'm just thinking it'd be good to know, like you might have to let the mayor know when it's done or just before it's done or something, or just so that there can be conditions around it. That doesn't mean that you can be stopped, but it just means that we know as it happens. Or there might be, I don't know.
There's probably one a month at the moment, isn't there? We're getting signed by the city.
So when,
At least, yeah.
What I'm concerned about is the per day, is if we ever run into the scenario, just with, because this covers everything.
Yeah.
Where it limits that, because then it's per day. And then
you want like twice in a day.
well, no, it's just per transaction. So that if there is a day where there's multiple,
Yeah.
so we're not having to go, okay, you approved this one today, now you wait till tomorrow to do this one, and then you have to wait till tomorrow to do
And that's where you can just have some conditions where you just, you
Well,
let everybody know what's going on.
yeah, so when
Why?
I at one point had $3 million delegation until in most of the time we thought that meant annually. The Canterbury earthquakes came along and we decided that it meant per transaction and as many transactions per day as were necessary. But we didn't break any rules about breaking transactions down.
Yeah.
We just pushed it to the next level, which was the second tier manager if we needed something bigger, and then it was 60 million. So I think it's useful to say what it actually means. And if that case you talked about, where it was 105, well, surely that should be the low end of the expectations. So that's what's happening now. Things mature. In future, it will be more. So it should be per transaction, not one transaction per day. That would severely limit your
Or
ability.
not a dollar limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not per day. It should be per transaction.
And potentially you can have two signees, you can have the chief executive and you, I don't know, well, acting.
So that's more around spots, isn't it?
No, it's
Derivatives? Yeah.
no transactions with New Zealand.
Banks.
That's what,
That's-
yes,
that's-
those are swaps,
yeah.
yeah. And this one is funding from the
LGFA.
LGFA.
Because that has to be signed by the CE.
Anyway,
The LGFA one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, so both or, I don't know, anyway, I'm just,
because it's getting in the way now. You're doing business, then surely we need to be more flexible within reason to allow you to get the job done.
at the same time, it would be nice because we don't see any of this, like it's not really visible, these meetings are quarterly, so we don't see in real time, so I think it would be useful to put a condition on there that when these things are done, there's just an email sent through to the mayor so that the board knows what's going on. We can't stop anything, it's not a control, it's a knowledge of. That allows questions to
do
be
it,
asked.
someone see everything. But a CC to me
Yeah,
at the same time.
that'd be good.
Yeah.
And then if they want
Okay.
to,
See, I mean, sometimes like, those transaction limits are actually, it's not people going to vote, which has happened.
yes,
I mean,
here,
But those limits are big, so rogue is, I mean, you've already gone rogue if you've done it, the limit doesn't stop you going rogue, that's the quantum that we've got to now.
Often it's renewal, so it's not a new piece of borrowing.
Yeah.
It's just a renewal.
Yeah.
But it can be.
I mean, it was that famous case of Orange County, that one here with you.
Sorry, I didn't.
Orange County.
Bob Citron. I used to genuflect in front of him. Our largest municipal bankruptcy in history, $4 billion. The guy went to jail, died in jail, and Orange County and Plymouth. And what's a lot of those transactions go right by. Wonderful place.
Yeah.
So that's where we don't want to be. We don't want to be Orange County.
Yeah.
There's some good books out there if you want to read them.
So I guess to think about who's in the position next. What pressure might they be under? It's
1994.
all about the people.
Now.
Why did
Yeah.
it die?
It's 100 million. Or are we going to go above the 100 million? We need more than 100 million. Oh, that's per transaction. So per transaction. Yeah, so per transaction.
He was the treasurer. He was the treasurer.
And then currently the delegations doesn't allow swaps.
Was it
so
devil?
putting
No.
a- Putting in the clause.
He was in a white collar prison.
So we have to take the fact that you're doing swaps. It's a wee bit sort of obscure about, what it refers to, so it's just putting some colour around it.
Don't pull up the Orange County thing and think that their swaps were our swaps. Their swaps were quantum back into EQs. It has nothing to do with us. Our swaps are fine.
The other thing I was looking at was the use of revenue for investments, revenue from asset sales on page 9 or 10 of the papers. It just doesn't seem to align with QAC and what we do there, and the revenue from other investments used to offset general rates. Well, that's not what happens with QAC. That's a specific statement, and and it would be good if it did. But I'm just wondering, this is sort of a little statement, and how does that impact other things? Is this a change? This is the same thing as before? Is it changed from the other policy?
No, I didn't really look at that. It's not part of it.
So it hasn't
adjusted at all.
Okay, it hasn't changed because, it says, I just don't understand that that's what we do now. Revenue from funds which are reserved for particular purposes is added to that fund. Revenue from other investment is used to offset general rates. I didn't think that was what we did. Page 9 of the document, page 10 of the papers. Down the bottom, and then revenue from asset sales. And so same thing for revenue from asset sales with Sker Heights. It seems to have gone to offset debt, but it was a particular fund, and I've always been curious about Sker Heights because within borrowing and the interest will then on that debt will then be, because we put it back into the fund to pay down debt. When you take it back out again for another use for the community, it's still treated as debt, and the interest is paid for by the community on rates. Whereas if you put it in a separate bank account, it wouldn't. I'm just intrigued about how to manage some of those particular funds and whether this is. It seems that this is dealing with that. It might be dealt with also elsewhere. So do we need it in this policy? Do we need more detail elsewhere? Sorry, ma'am?
I don't think it's QAC, the revenue from other investments.
Well, it is an investment. Yes, if you're doing for an investment. But also, do we treat, this is how we treat all of our other, I mean, it's probably only investment. I don't know. I just thought it might be worth checking those to see that they align with current practice, or if we want to. Don't need to resolve it here.
So it's not dividend. If it was QAC, it would be a dividend. So not an investment as such.
Okay, we
So
could
just
clarify
think
that.
of other investments we might have. I think it's just a placeholder.
Yeah.
When they do any other investment.
And the other thing is the revenue from asset sales, because that Sker Heights fund, it's a bit curious, like, it's supposed to be for the community sold, but it goes back into the general pot, pays off debt when the community wants to use that Sker Heights.
And it's in the balance sheet, it's a code, as a reserve.
And when we want to use it, do we then borrow it back? So the debt's available, but the community is still charged. We still have to pay it back. Do you see what I mean? Like how?
No. So at the time,
It should still be paid in full now. Like, obviously, it's interest costs, it saves you money. It's still there and
So
available.
it shouldn't. The use
Like
of
an
Sker Heights fund for Wanaka. Sorry to drill down into one particular thing, but if they want to use that, it doesn't then cost the community anything.
No.
There's nothing goes on rates. It is free management. Perfect.
sitting in the balance sheet as an asset.
Yeah.
Okay. Reserve. Waiting to allocate to a project.
Which is different to paying down debt.
Yeah, but in real life, it'd be obviously it's not just sitting there as a cash balance.
It's effectively cash flowing other things.
Which means that if we take it out, then someone else is paying for the.
If you put it in, it's reducing the interest.
Yeah, so it's increasing the interest that needs to be paid. That will then be paid for by everyone.
I'm worried there's one for Airtown and there's one for Queenstown.
Yeah, I know. It's just I can't get my head around exactly how they work in those
They're not sitting there.
payments.
Yeah.
But well, I think the sentence stands, isn't it? It's what we do.
No,
It's
that's perfectly fine.
Cool, I guess unless anybody else got any comments or seeing anything in there they don't think is fit for purpose in the treasury management policy for an entity such as QLDC.
So can I just clarify, do you want us to take this then on to council and get it approved now, or do you want to wait until the LTP to make all these changes?
Well, you need them now politically? I think
it's part of the LTP package because it goes,
yeah.
everything that gets compiled up and goes out.
Is there any changes to the LTP can't make a submission on this part? It's a given.
No, everything's available.
Yeah, so as long as we get,
Yeah.
I think you could, if you need those ones now, I think it would be
Oh,
possible to.
I'm on David, just run really quickly. What are the changes? Changes are large banks, 100 million, single A rated banks, 50 million. What are the other changes? Not 110%. We know the difference between 110%.
100% funding, risk management, no more than 35% of debt shall mature in any rolling 12-month period. Slight adjustment to the fixed and floating rate hedging percentages, not great, just bringing it back by 1 year in the middle and pushing it out by 2 years at the end to enable it to take more cover.
And just that appendix 1.
And the yes.
Just making it clearer.
Go back to where we were a minute ago. The existing policy is covered under the existing long-term plan, which runs through until next year.
Yeah.
So even if the new one was updated, you still would be able to use it. It wouldn't, but does it not have to be consulted on as
You
part
can
of
pass
the
the council resolution.
So
Pass it.
policies don't, this treasury policy doesn't require a council resolution. It doesn't require to be actually consulted on, right?
Just under the LTP section, it says that you must have these policies. So it just says you have to have a policy.
Yeah.
Do you then update what's in the live LTP current online, or do you just leave it?
Yeah, it'll be up.
Okay, everything replaced. Okay, good.
That's one question. I'm still mulling over Skirbox and just going, why can't we, when there's an asset sale like that, where there's a policy around it, why can't that sit separately and gain interest rather than losing value? So at the moment, that money's sitting and it's offsetting debt and everyone's benefiting across the district from the reduced interest payments. But if that sat separately but gained interest, so that there would be more in that fund, that means that there's not an impetus to use the money right now because it's losing value every single day, that it can run into the future. Is that, if we wanted to change that, is that something we could write into here?
To the detriment of Wanaka overall, you mean?
To the benefit of Wanaka, to the detriment probably of the rest of it.
All the other
With the Arrowtown.
balances and stuff as well.
Well, there's Arrowtown's balance, and I don't know what other, and I'm not thinking of anyone in particular. I'm just thinking it makes those funds discreet so that there's not this weird incentive to just kind of throw it at something now so that we don't lose the value. It can actually be retained and wait until the right thing comes along.
What's the interest rate on term deposits compared to a borrower?
You know what
Well,
it
it totally depends what
Because
time at long term you've got
Skirbox
term deposits for
runs out of value.
Generally lease though.
lease.
Simon, it's
We wouldn't be able to put up to 2 deposits, we wouldn't know when to break it.
No.
So it would be just sitting there not earning interest. It would be
I mean, you'd
currently
probably
checked
be,
out.
you could well be OCR or something plus, which is 250, or OCR plus 50 if it was on some sort of 7 days or something. And your borrowing cost.
yeah, because you wouldn't be able to do anything with it without something being in the LTP or the annual plan. You can't just spend it. So you can have it in there for a year.
No, you can make applications to those reserve funds to spend them on stuff that's not necessarily in the LTP, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you had to put
Council
it.
resolution. You can have a council resolution saying.
When funds get into those reserves, they're tagged for specific use. Like the Arrowtown Historic Fund is for historical projects in Arrowtown. We don't need to have funds in LTP, make applications to that fund.
So
But
I
if
guess
the
the thing would be,
says it's got to be an LTP project.
yeah.
So
I guess every fund, every particular fund would be different because your rules are different to Sker Heights rules. Sker Heights rules, it's got to be in plan. So, but I guess the point is they might all be different, but if they sat separately, it's just not this rush to use them. I know there is a rush to use Sker Heights money, and it might not be the time because, you know, and it does lose value every year for a project that might be developed in 5 years' time. You know, you're losing out from not using it now.
So do you have a mortgage?
What's that?
Do you have a mortgage?
Yeah,
Do you have a savings account?
not much. It's personal.
So it's the interest rate on your mortgage, the interest rate on your savings account.
But I'm thinking of with different communities,
You
and
would
this
not
is
repay mortgage to put it on savings to make this interest on, would you?
it depends because that money isn't necessarily available. No, that money, we're a big district. There's lots of projects and things and things in the pipeline. We know that discretionary funds are limited, so often there's not a lot, you know, available, and these things are often for a specific community funded purpose. You know, Sker Heights is about infrastructure.
So you're just worried that it will get lost? Is that the main?
I'm worried that I know that there is this rush to use that Sker Heights money at the moment and to use it now before it loses value, and it has lost value. In the meantime, it's benefited the whole district. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm saying let's think about it, because for each different fund it will have different consequences. But I know the impact it's having in Wanaka at the moment is use it now because it's being devalued. Whereas it's the
Value because you're spending. It's been spent on stuff.
it's staying at that amount. The value of it is 22. You know, say you put 10 million in 5 years ago. It's now worth a lot less, right? And if we wait another 5 years, that 10 million is worth less. It's not gaining interest. The interest being used for the whole district.
Can I offer an alternative solution? Instead of putting money into a bank account, that we do an internal interest allocation.
Yeah, totally.
So that's a policy decision.
Which is be a net of borrowing and savings.
Yeah.
Maybe we did it at an annual.
The principle being that they.
And we say internal interest.
Well,
Yeah.
let's use the example of Paraton. So that's an equity account. That's what we're calling it, right? And the interest from that keeps rolling into that equity account, correct?
Doesn't at the moment, there's no interest.
Oh, the interest is going up.
There's
no interest.
There's no underlying cash.
So the book entry.
When we sell, the estimates, the cash goes against. That number comes down, so your cost goes down. We hold a reserve for you.
Your industry.
But there's a reserve in equity accounts. It says if you have got a community project or something that fits into the criteria that the fund is there for, you tap into it and you borrow the money to pay for it. And then you start accruing interest on that. So the funds that we receive are just offsetting interest costs.
Yeah, so what Nikki's talking about is setting up a little mini endowment balance sheet.
Instead of using it to offset interest, actually, and it might not be the community might not want to do it. It might not be considered beneficial, but I just think it would be worth considering given the behaviour that it's changing the decision-making behaviour around these funds.
Very likely to actually invest that, so you keep A, keeping up with inflation, and B, keeping up with infrastructure inflation.
I don't care what it is, it's the
But
principle
you're
of.
losing because you invested in unicorns on the stock market and they would go to zero.
It's not finding the
Or you
problem.
put it in crypto.
I'm just looking at positive options. There will always be
But
downsides.
again, you're looking for a solution to a problem that does not exist.
It does though, because in Wanaka, we are sitting there going, let's use this fast. But what we want to do is, you know, we don't want to do it right now. There's projects we could spend it on, but I think if they knew it was gaining interest, they would wait for a bit until the right thing came
Look
along.
at what the interest is gaining is to keep up with nothing. Like you don't.
If you've got 20 million,
1%.
20 million. I don't know, it depends how you're.
As a recommendation, guys can find out
Just options and what.
If there was a notional interest paid on reserves, would we need to fund that? Or could that be notional too? That we then only need to dip into funding it if we actually spent it?
Yeah.
A couple of $1,000 more a year to spend. Find something to spend it on.
Well, they're trying. I'm not on the board now, so, but I just noted it as a problem that was raised, so.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you for indulging me, Chair. Appreciate it.
Right. And on that note, anybody else got anything they would like to add?
Thank you.
Thanks, Miles. Next time.
What's the path of least resistance to getting this into policy changes?
Bring it back to council.
So you'll get this policy coming to your next Smart Finance Committee, which is coming very quickly. Which then those recommendations will obviously go forward to council and then hopefully approved.
I'll be at the next meeting as well, presenting the normal treasury report, so yes. And I'll tell you what's happening on the financial market.
Can't wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the youth centre, you could do something where it was sort of offsetting the interest, therefore that amount of interest, or whatever, then this is